Many people watching this video are on their way to missing the September 30th deadline to apply for an EB-5 green card. Not because they decided not to do EB-5, but because they watched videos like this one, felt like they understood the process, and told themselves, I have time. Here's the problem with that. An EB-5 green card application is a 6-step process, and the two most time-consuming steps in the entire process happen before you file a single form with the USCIS. Most people have no real idea how long these two steps actually take. We are going to walk through all 6 steps today, and I want you to keep a day in your mind as you listen to each one. September 30th, 2026 is the deadline to submit your EB-5 green card application such that the current program terms, including the $800,000 minimum investment amount, are locked in. After that, you're no longer guaranteed the $800,000 minimum qualifying investment amount, and you're also exposed to other potential changes to the EB-5 program that may well not be advantageous. The clock is already running whether you've started the application process or not. Here is what most people get wrong about the EB-5 timeline. They think the process starts when you submit an I-526E petition, but an I-526E petition is actually just the culmination of 6 to 10 weeks of work. And once again, the two steps that take up most of that time happen before you file a single form with the USCIS. And if you are not already working on them, you are already behind. A well-organized applicant working with the right professionals generally needs 6 to 10 weeks just to get to the point where they are ready to submit an application for an EB-5 green card. That is not 6 to 10 weeks of browsing websites and having initial conversations. It is 6 to 10 weeks of actual work. So let's walk through what that work actually looks like. The first step is choosing a regional center and project. And I want to slow down here, because the regional center part of this step is both more consequential and less straightforward than most people realize. Currently, there are roughly 580 USCIS approved regional centers. First, you must be very clear about what approved actually means with regard to a regional center. It means merely that the USCIS has authorized the regional centers to sponsor EB-5 projects in a specific geographic area. The USCIS does not assess the viability of the projects the regional center sponsors as investments or guarantee their safety in any way. In fact, the law governing EB-5 is explicit that EB-5 investments must be at risk to qualify an EB-5 investor to obtain an EB-5 green card. Of the 580 approved regional centers, only a small fraction have a meaningful track record of having sponsored projects for which investors have obtained permanent green cards and redeemed their investments. So when you're searching for an EB-5 project, you're evaluating the history and operating practices of the regional centers as much as you are evaluating the projects. Having considered all these factors about regional centers, you must still carefully choose your actual EB-5 investment based on its merits as a business and an investment independent of the quality of the regional center it is associated with. The other strategic decision that differentiates evaluating an EB-5 project from any comparably substantial investment is whether or not to choose a rural set-aside category project or an urban TEA project. Rural set-aside projects are located in genuinely rural areas. They enjoy the largest dedicated visa pool with a set-aside of 20% of all EB-5 visas, and also the fastest USCIS priority processing. They offer the quickest path to I-526E approval with the lowest visa backlog risk for applicants from countries that are subject to retrogression quotas. There are high unemployment urban TEA projects which qualify for the same $800,000 minimum investment level that rural projects do. However, they have a smaller annual set-aside of only 10% of all EB-5 visas, and the announcement that applicants from China and India have become subject to visa wait lists for high unemployment TEA projects is expected to come anytime. Also, I-526E applications based on high unemployment TEA projects generally take 2 years or more to be approved. Why do we like rural projects? For Indian nationals with children over age 15, rural set-aside category EB-5 projects are the only realistic strategy for ensuring your family's green card application process is complete before your children age out of eligibility to immigrate with you as a family. This is a crucial decision, and it must be made at the front end. But picking the right project category only serves you if the specific project is sound. Lightning-fast I-526E petition and temporary green card approvals still amount to failure if the project fails before it can meet the requirements to secure your permanent green card. Which brings us to step 2, diligence. Step 2 is where we regularly see people make the most expensive mistakes of their lives. Most people would never put $800,000 into a strictly for-profit investment without having a clear understanding of the case for the business and the financials underlying the investment, and of course the terms of the investment itself. But add a green card to the equation and the diligence goes right out of the window. An EB-5 investment is an $800,000 investment in a security or interest in a business and must be treated as such. This means you read the offering documents, you understand the project's capital structure and the order of priority of rights lenders and investors have to its assets. You make sure you understand who is managing the EB-5 funds and whether their relationship to the project's management is clearly disclosed and appropriate. Also, you make sure you clearly understand how the business will generate revenue, the evidence supporting this, and the sources of the evidence. A good rule of thumb is that if you can't explain to someone else in just a few minutes how the business will make money and the assumptions supporting your explanation, then you yourself don't really understand the business. Above all, you should have a crystal clear understanding of how much debt the project is or will be truly carrying on its balance sheet, and what recourse to collateral and assets do EB-5 investors in the project have relative to the project's other investors and creditors. Step 3 is getting a qualified immigration lawyer. This is not optional, and it is not the place to cut costs. Your lawyer will prepare and file your I-526E petition. They need to be deeply experienced with EB-5 specifically as practitioners, not just general immigration lawyers. An I-526E petition is a package of documents submitted with Form I-526E that presents your qualifying EB-5 project, your background information documenting your general eligibility for immigration to the United States, and most importantly, the source of your investment funds and their path to the United States. A typical I-526 petition, handled by an experienced lawyer, takes 6 to 10 weeks, with the source of investment funds explanation being the most time-consuming and labor-intensive part of the process. With the September 30th deadline looming, it is absolutely paramount to choose a good immigration lawyer very soon. At InvestMigrate, we work alongside the best lawyers in EB-5, and getting that relationship in place early is central to making the rest of the process run on time. Step 4 is pulling together all of your personal documentation. This is passports, birth certificates, marriage certificates if applicable, tax records, and anything the USCIS needs to establish who you are and confirm that your general background is suitable for U.S. immigration. This sounds straightforward, and for many people it largely is. But it takes real time to compile, and anything not in English needs certified translation. Also, in some cases, there will be a need to source legally acceptable alternative documents in cases where the normally required documents are unavailable. The earlier you start on this, the better, because it runs in parallel with Step 5, and Step 5 is where the most timeline jeopardy lives. That is, the source of investment funds explanation. This is the step that catches most families off guard, and it is the reason I keep saying you need 6 to 10 weeks of preparation time. Most people hear source of funds and think they will just simply get a few months of bank statements together and that will be that. Nothing could be farther from the truth. The USCIS wants the complete origin story of every dollar you are investing. Not just that you have it, but where it came from, how it got to where it is now, and the documentation of every step along the way. Families with a clean, simple financial history move through this in about 6 weeks. Families where capital has moved between accounts, between countries, or has been accumulated across multiple sources over many years may take longer. So the paper trail must cover all of it. Everything we have talked about exists to get you to this moment, submitting a complete, well-documented I-526E petition to the USCIS before September 30th, 2026. When that petition is filed and accepted, you have locked in the current program terms and your place in line is established. Again, rural project applications generally take 5 to 12 months for approval, and that is when the rest of the process begins. The visa application, the conditional green card for you and your family, and eventually an unconditional permanent residency are all real and they're all coming. But every single one of them depends on making this deadline first. And this deadline depends on starting now. To sum it all up, your EB-5 application timeline depends on your financial history, your nationality, and finally the project category you choose. There is a last variable that is the one that is entirely in your control, and that is when you start. At InvestMigrate, we have been guiding families through the process of obtaining foreign residency and immigration since 2008, and we have helped over 6,400 families get to the finish line. If September 30th is your target, book a consultation through the link below. The sooner we look at your situation, the more we can actually do for you.